So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We have the pleasure to speak here in Klaipėda as one of the last speakers, and maybe as the king said, King Henry said to his several wives, "I will not take it very long." My presentation is ports at the center. And as the introduction said, we have done, yes, an important thing. It was the merger between two ports. The Port of Antwerp, a large port, a port that did the year before the merger 240 million tons of goods, with a medium-sized port, the Port of Zeebrugge, 50 million tons. So the total tonnage last year was about 290 million tons, and that makes us the number 2 in Europe. And gives us also, you saw all the challenges, and we can sleep at night, so we can sleep, but in the morning we are woken up with a lot of questions, challenges, and so on. But I have now 1,700 colleagues and dedicated teams that are working on digitalization, innovation, geopolitical challenges. So it's a topic that is, yes, very highly on the agenda. So a global port, and maybe some of you have visited already Belgium. You see the two places. On the right-hand side, you see the Belfry Tower. So that are the civil powers of a city. And the ecclesiastical powers is the church, is the cathedral that you can see on the left-hand side. That's the Cathedral of Antwerp. So the port platforms, two port platforms, one port, a limited company with a public shareholder. The shareholders are the cities of Antwerp and Bruges. And the distance between the two port platforms, it's 80 kilometers. Now you see the different platforms, the layout. So the platform Antwerp is alongside the Scheldt River. The size, the square meters, it's 5 times the square meters that we have on the platform in Bruges. Total throughput I've said to you. We are with some specific characteristics that we have the largest car handling capacity in the world. So we have 3 million new cars yearly through our ports. And we are the number 2 in the world for the chemical hub. So you have to go to the US, to Houston, to visit and see the number 1. The number 2, it's the platform in Antwerp. And then a role that was especially very important the last 12 months, that is, we have in the outer port. So you see on the left-hand side the platform in Bruges, and you see we have 2 breakwaters into the sea. On one of those breakwaters, we have an LNG platform that is working since 1987, so already more than 30 years. We had the first important vocation. That was the SECA, the sulfur emission areas. That was 2015, and Klaipėda is also included in this area. So that was also a vocation that we are one of the petrol stations for the future that we can provide, or we sell liquefied natural gas. But of course, suddenly happened last year, February the 24th, the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. And then all the member states in the European Union looked angrily to what is their internal energy balance. And Germany saw 80% vulnerability to Russian gas, Central Europe, Austria, 70%, and so on. Italy, also 65%. So each country searched a way out. And we could provide quite a lot of volumes in liquefied natural gas that we sell to Central Europe and to Germany. Proof of that, of course, we see it in the figures. You see it also in the vulnerability indexes. But also, we had the visits of, so you know, in Germany, you have regional authorities, Länder. So we had the visit of several minister presidents of those Länders. But we had at Valentine's Day of this year, the Prime Minister, Olaf Scholz, who came to Germany, who came from Germany to Zeebrugge to beg, it's not to beg, to politely ask, please keep the good relationship and keep us providing liquefied natural gas. Secondly, and I will speak later on the possibilities, we are aware that liquefied natural gas is still a fossil thing. It's an intermediate thing. It's not carbon-free totally. And so one of the solutions will be in other alternative fuels, and there hydrogen, it's the modern word, last 12 months. You can spend whole days and weeks in attending conferences, meetings, and online gatherings on hydrogen. And so the port platform in Zeebrugge and Antwerp, so the Port of Antwerp-Bruges, is strongly involved in what's happening in the hydrogen field. And we are following up, and we would like to be also the pioneer in this. Now, changing world, a global port therein. You said it, and Isabelle Reckbos said it also. We have several things. We have something that we cannot handle, extreme weather. So we had in the summertime, this summer, very hot temperatures in Central Europe, 40 degrees, 45 degrees. Not this summer, but last summer, you had also a problem in Germany on the Rhine River, that the level of the water was not deep enough for the inland barges. So water, extreme weather, hot weather, it's one thing. Then we faced all the pandemic, COVID, Corona. We know everything, hybrid working, online, Teams, Zooms. We have a lot of experience therein. Then the energy crisis that was from February last year, the jump in the energy prices, and this, what happened this weekend, we see again the jump of those prices reflected in the goods. We have the Russia war. We have the special position of China. We have Chinese investments in our ports. We have traffics with China. So we have to deal with it. We had a max inflation figure of almost 10% into the European Union last year. And we have, and that was the previous panel, also in Belgium and, say, Central Europe, Northwestern Europe, we have the war on talent and the job, the scarcity of people. Well, we are an old continent, say it so, and young people. Yeah, we have young people, but the birth rate is not so high. So we have the market, the labor market has totally changed between demand and supply. Now you see the Russia war, you know, the two people there. So the global GDP, you see the differences. On the left-hand side, you see China, the role that China is playing, the US, and then the European Union. And then the graph on the right-hand side, it's very well, the countries with the highest GDP on Earth, the global figures, and you see the moving position from China and the US, where the role of the United States is decreasing. Now, that was what I said, Olaf Scholz and Zeebrugge. Then inflation, so the global figure reached last year almost 10%. Of course, you have two things therein. You have inflation figure without petrol products, and then you have with petrol products. But this was a huge challenge to deal with because your whole supply chain, with all those factors together, not collapse, but at a certain day with Corona, COVID, the first month was really, there was no supply chain longer from, it came from China and it went to Europe, and so it moved to the US. So you have the pictures in plastic bags. I hope there were some holes in, because otherwise you are sophisticated. So the different challenges that we are dealing with, and we are working with a lot of platforms. For example, we have a port community system, Next Port. We have also Chain Port. That's a gathering of the top 20 CEOs of the top 20 ports in the world. And I will be in the panel with Göteborg, so the CEO of Göteborg was there also. And then you see here what's happening with the containers from China. You can name it consolidation, light decrease, but we are still not on the growth path. So supply chain, you had a difference there also in the changing balance between onshoring, nearshoring, and offshoring. You see all the words and what is happening. So a huge challenge for the manufacturers that are making up products and are trying to do trade and doing export-imports of goods, because you had really unpredictable supply chains, certainly in Europe, but it was widespread all over the world. So that's the weather, the extreme weather that we had. And then you see also the weather, the temperatures, very high. So in vain of all those, we are not desperately looking into the world, but we are facing quite a lot of disruptive factors, but still we are a reliable gateway and we can guarantee the trade. So my CEO is also participating at the COP meetings, because energy transition, it's such an important thing. Hydrogen, it's one of the solutions, but we are convinced that we have to offer the market all alternative fuels. And this gives an overview of how it is, but I think the slides will be distributed later on, and then you can do analysis, how it comes in and goes out, and how we are making a real circular economy. So we are really a lever for global hydrogen supply chain. So we are doing in those energy transition quite a lot of initiatives on the sustainable energy field, also the industrial. So we have a lot of industry in our port, but also on the shipping. We spoke about shipping emissions of vessels, but we offer also all the fuels. We have also onshore power supply, named also as cold ironing, so that you link the vessel to the network in the port. And we have tugboats that are sailing on methanol and on hydrogen. So if you have further questions, I'm still here, so thank you for your attention.